Hello, beautiful human beings, and welcome to a new episode of my YouTube channel. Today, I want to talk about emotional resilience. Not just emotional resilience, spiritual, energetic, mental resilience. The importance of being resilient and the role that it actually plays within a path of personal development. Now, the way that I think about this and the way that I really understand this is when I think back in my life. One of the most defining, I guess, qualities of myself, if I were to um, describe myself, is really how much I've grown as a person. When I was 21 years old, I was a single mother of a 11-month-old baby. I was living in a small town in a country that was foreign to me, Mexico. I was living off of $400 a month. I felt like I had lost my life. I had dropped out of school. I didn't have any hope in my dreams anymore. I didn't have friends. I could barely understand what the people at the market were saying to me. And I was so depressed. And I lived off of $400 a month for many, many years, you know? And I didn't really, I wasn't capable of holding more in my life. Just the idea that I was a single mother living in a foreign country was enough to make it so that I had lost hope in myself and I had stopped trying to make something of myself. And something happened along the way where because of that deep pain, I was pulled into this world of healing, spirituality, ancestral medicines, therapies, all the things. And over time, I started growing, I started healing, I started feeling better with myself. And in the feeling better with myself, my dreams came back, my ambitions came back. I started doing businesses, I started having some success, I started having more friends, and my life just got bigger. And so I think about this and I'm like, how is it that at some point I had a life that was so horrible and it was so negative and it was so depressing, but the only thing that I had to deal with every day was just the fact that I was alone and I had a baby. And I mean, of course, I'm not going to minimize it. It was truly the hardest time of my entire life. And I think being a single mother that young in a foreign country, I mean, that's pretty wild. But when I think about my life today, and I think about all the problems I have in the context of issues that I have to deal with on a day to day, the amount of energy that is required, emotional intelligence that is required, trust in life that is required today to live the life that I lead, having a job, studying in university, having a teenage daughter, while building my own business, while being a person that takes care of herself, while going to the gym, while making sure that I'm taking care of my mental health and I'm staying in a state of trust and faith with life. I think that girl that I was at 21, there's no way that she could have held the life that I lead today. She couldn't have held the stress of it. She couldn't have held the pain of it. I mean, like the amount of people that I've lost along the way, the the difficulty that it is to raise a teenage child, the capacity to stay centered through a day, one day with all the issues, all the problems, all the things, and to not just be able to hold myself centered, but to actually feel at peace throughout it, to actually feel calm in my heart, to actually feel like I could do more. And this became super, super clear to me even more over this weekend. I'm not going to go too deep into this because it's something that is still developing, but I went to see my grandmother and she's 88 years old, and it's just become very clear that the time to start saying goodbye to her, fortunately, because it's just the way of life, is now. And my grandmother is one of the most important people in my life to me. And I don't even want to talk about what she means to me because I will start crying because it's really difficult. But what was interesting was, even though it hurts and even though it's painful, even though I didn't expect how much it was going to hurt, I feel strong. I feel like I'm ready for this. I feel like not only am I ready for this transition with her, but I'm ready to see her every weekend, to bring her flowers, to give her a hug, to hold her hand, to make sure she feels loved, to embrace her, and to not make it about me, but give her whatever I can in the time that she has left. And I thought, and I started to think about, like, what's the level of emotional intelligence and resilience that is needed to hold space for that when your life is already more full than most people's in terms of responsibilities, in terms of problems to deal with every day, in terms of having to trust in life. I mean, all of us have to trust in life the same amount, but I guess the reason I just said that as an example is because I'm so entangled in my responsibilities that I'm not going to let go of as a mother, and as a person that I know that I want to finish my degree, and as a person that knows I have to continue this job even though it's not what I know I was born for. And at the same time hold faith and trust that the life that I know that I'm meant to live and the service I know I'm meant to give is going to happen for me, and trust that, you know? And it's sort of a celebration too, because I am very proud of myself, and I'm deeply grateful and happy that I've worked on myself to the point now where I can not fall apart because of this thing that is happening in my life, and instead walk toward it with strength and with clarity and with love and with compassion, and saying, like, not only am I ready for this, I feel honored. I feel deeply honored that I have the self-awareness, the wisdom, and the emotional intelligence to not make it about me, and to give one of the people I love the most in the whole world all my love for as long as I can as she transitions. It's an incredible thing, and it really just makes me think and reflect on the way that when I started this spiritual journey, this journey of growth, I really was just attracted to it because I just wanted to feel better. I was deeply, deeply depressed. I can't even explain the level of depression, because I just basically hated myself and hated my life. And I did since I was a young teenager till like 20 somethings, you know? And so I was pulled into this life just because I wanted to feel better. And when I started for the first time hearing about spirituality, oh wow, look, I have a little hair. I'm just gonna fix that because it's gonna annoy me later. When I first started learning about spirituality and healing, I romanticized it, I idealized it, and I thought, okay, if I do this, if I get really good at this, then I'll just stop ever feeling sad and depressed. I had a totally distorted perception of it. I thought the purpose of healing and spiritual growth was to escape humanity, essentially. My humanity, my emotions is to escape the difficulty of it. It was essentially just to feel good all the time. And the thing is, you might think that at the beginning, but then you realize that's not how it is, because maybe you can go to a ayahuasca retreat. I guess I'm saying something I experienced. You can go to an ayahuasca retreat. You can drink ayahuasca 4 nights in a row. You can feel like you just received the answers from the universe. You can feel like you have been enlightened. You have awakened. You have gone beyond humanity. And then you go home, and it maybe takes 24, 48 hours, or maybe if you really, really got into a really wonderful state, it takes a week. And something happens, and bam, you're back to where you were. You have new wisdom, you have new information, you have a new perspective. but the emotional home that you have built is still there. The habits that you have are still there. The things that trigger you are still triggering you. And the process of healing and of spiritual growth is truly one that requires commitment and perseverance over time. The amount of times I thought I had grown out of my depression, and all of a sudden I'm back at the beginning and I'm like feeling the same sadness, and I'm like having catastrophic thoughts of like, I guess I'm broken. I guess I'll just never feel better. I feel in awe of life to think about the amount of times in my life I actually thought, maybe I'll just always feel this way. Maybe I'll just never feel better. Let alone, right? I just wanted to feel better. Let alone feel better and have all the abundance and have all the love and have all this beauty in your life, right? And so it's interesting because now that I think about it in hindsight, I look back, I realize that it actually is hard for a purpose. That every single obstacle that came into my life and that comes into our lives when we declare to the universe, to God, to our own spirit, and we say, I want to grow in this life. I want to wake up in this life. I don't want to be controlled by my programming. I don't want to be controlled by my fears, my doubts. I don't want my past to define me. I don't want to be a victim anymore. I want to create a better life. I want to become a better person. I commit to this path. When you declare that, you think it just means like the world's going to open everything up for you. And it does, but not in the way you think. It does so in a way where a particular path is designed for you that is full of trials, of obstacles, of tests, of confrontations. And you think, because people say this, I know this is something that, I heard a lot when I was a child from my parents. Life is hard, life is suffering, life is for warriors, life is, you know, it's almost like life is a curse, but just make the best of it, right? And why do people think this? Because life is full of so many obstacles, because you have these periods of everything is good and bam, something else happens. And so I actually now know with every cell of my being that every obstacle that life has put before me has been perfectly designed, because in that obstacle and in the pain that I had to move through and in the deeper level of strength that I had to find, the deeper level of clarity I had to find, the deeper level of like will to live that I had to find, I was stretched a little bit. Every obstacle stretched me. Every heartbreak stretched me. Every disappointment stretched me. It was never a curse. It was always preparing me to be a person that had the capacity to not only feel good and be at peace and have dreams and experience abundance, but that also feels pain and feels frustration and can hold them both at the same time. I'm deeply sad and moved by the fact that I have to say goodbye to my grandmother. And I'm simultaneously deeply grateful that I can be there for her, grateful for everything she's given to me, grateful for the life that I lead. It hasn't made me fall apart again. I used to fall apart before it was months, then it was weeks, then it was days, now it's like a few hours. I used to fall apart and disconnect from people and from life and disappear into my hermit state of not talking to anybody and just being depressed and not wanting to do anything every day for months when something bad would happen. I didn't have the capacity to hold it. And today it's amazing. Like, I fall apart, I cry for a few hours, then I feel better. I'm like, okay, I got this. And then I just live my life and I do my thing, and I'm a mom and I have my job and I do all the things. And I feel okay. And the only way that's happening is because my capacity to hold more of life has expanded. The biggest confusion that many people have when they commit to a path of personal growth, when they want to create something beautiful in their lives, is the thought that when they finally have the money, or when they finally have the partner, when they finally achieve the thing, their life is just going to magically be better. Their life is just magically going to go beyond duality, and all the problems will be solved. But the truth is, the stronger you are, the more that you expand, the more that you can hold, the bigger the obstacles, the bigger the problems that you need to confront to stretch you now, the bigger the consequences of the tests that are placed in front of you. If it wasn't that way, then we would just stop growing. If it wasn't that way, we would get to a plateau and then we would just stay the same. But the nature of spirit, the nature of life, the nature of reality, if you just look around, is constant growth and constant evolution. And so how can a person that has already passed, has already experienced and gone beyond all these negative experiences, how can they continue to grow? They need a bigger test. And it doesn't mean that those tests have to constantly be tragedies. I've experienced a lot of tragedies in my life, and I'm not going to go into them, but really deep, dark, sad things that happen to you. The tests can transform and the obstacles can change. And instead of like a tragedy of like somebody dying or something like horrible happening, the tests become other things. I don't really know what examples to bring up in this particular moment, but I guess the whole example of my grandmother is one that is valid as an example in this conversation, right? There's something that happens in the energetic body. There's something that happens in the emotional body. There's something that happens in the mind. Whereas we move through these obstacles with the mindset of, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? And actually allow ourselves, as we move through the obstacles, to feel our emotions and to listen to the wisdom of our emotions, living our lives, moving through the obstacles without numbing, where it's as if our body is basically like a tube, like, an electrical cable. It basically has like a rubber exterior, and then it has like an amount of voltage that it can allow to move through that rubber exterior. And there are limitations depending on the size and probably, and I don't actually know, I'm making this up, like the thickness of that rubber exterior to that cable. And it's like, if you want to run if you want to run more electricity through it, you have to make it stronger. It has to expand. It has to be able to hold more. The same goes essentially for being a person. Many people nowadays talk about channeling, not channeling like aliens, but like channeling writing, channeling art, channeling wisdom, channeling all these things. And it's the same thing. It requires that we expand our capacity to hold a higher level of energy, a higher level of voltage. But we're also human beings. So we have to expand to hold a higher level of voltage in the wisdom that we receive from the universe, while simultaneously having the capacity to hold the most, small details in our lives, like what are we gonna eat this evening, and we've got to change the tires in the car, and like we've got to pay the gas bill, and we've got to deal with this problem at work, and all the human things and the spirit things. And so if I now understand, if I have a better perspective, a better understanding of what it means to grow spiritually, of what it means to grow as a person, of what it means to expand your life and receive more, I now understand it's essentially learning to hold more at the same time. When we don't have the capacity to hold a lot in our lives, we have to let go of something to hold the other thing. So it's like I feel really good, but then something bad happens, so I have to let go of the feeling good, and now I feel bad. Can you still feel good about the things you were feeling good about, but now you also feel sad about this new thing that happened or that you learned about? I think that's what we have to ask ourselves. And I think we need to stop asking for life to be easier and stop thinking that we're going to get to this place where we have no more problems, because that's never going to happen. People always say they want a more amazing partner. more money, more travel, more this, more that. The human nowadays, we all just want more. But have you actually thought about what that more would mean? If we isolated it simply to the idea of money, people are like, I want $1 million. I want a ton of money. I want to have all these houses. I want to have all these things. But they don't actually realize that more money means more responsibility, bigger decisions you have to make, bigger risks that you take, holds a higher amount of energy that you have to hold. More of anything that you desire in this life requires more capacity to stay in your center, to stay in your trust, to stay in your power while all the things are happening around you. To be able to not fall down for months when something goes wrong. To not fall apart when you lose a friend, like, not that they died, like simply a friend breakup or a relationship breakup. It's like when something bad happens in your life, how much that you were building do you just let go of and let fall apart? It's like, what if we stopped having to fall completely apart and rebuilding from zero every time? Not that there's anything wrong with it. And I've done it a ton of times. That's why I know what it's like to build from zero. But what if we had the emotional, mental, energetic, spiritual resilience to hold what we had built and hold the new tragedy that had come into our lives? So I really just want to leave that for you to feel into and to ponder, because I think it can also support you if you're going through a big test right now in your life, a big obstacle. Support you and encourage you to know that it isn't a punishment. It's not that you did anything wrong. It's that you're being prepared for more. For more what? I don't know. I don't know what you're being prepared for. I don't even know fully what I have been prepared for, because I know that where I am is only the beginning of where I'm going. But if I want to help more, to serve more, to receive more with this logic, it means I'll have to be able to hold myself centered in trust, in faith, and in my power through more trials and tribulations. So I trust that if you heard this, that you needed to hear this today, I'd love to hear what it awakened in you, what it reminded you of, what it made you think about. If you have a moment and you want to leave a comment, I would love to read it. If you're just listening for the first time to me on this channel, it's a brand new channel. I invite you to subscribe, to like the video. It really, really is actually helping get traction for the few videos so far that have gotten comments and likes and stuff. So I'd really, really love and appreciate that. And if you are interested in working more deeply with me, because I do offer one-to-one sessions as well as breathwork journeys, please make sure to check the information in the description. You can write me directly by email, or you can write me on Instagram. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. I love doing this. This is like so much fun to me, just like recording whenever I have a moment, the things that are on my heart, and just allowing life to show me where it's taking me. So thank you for being here. I really deeply appreciate it. And wherever you are, I hope you have a beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening, and I will see you on the next video.